It's time! It's time! You like that? You like that? Woo!
It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Fighting fit and ecstatic the Eagles are on a bye week, so I don't have to actually watch that offense.
Ooh, I raise you a bye week and I give you Washington on a bye week. I haven't really been watching because it's absolutely dire. I've caught it up later on. Watching that live is for no man.
It's 3 games without a touchdown now.
13 quarters now, I think, which is some effort. At least we're establishing that run, though.
The run has been established.
It has been established. Next week, we have a classic resistible force meets movable object, as I believe we're playing the New York Football Jets.
Oh, God, that's going to be glorious.
Is it glorious as the Snoopy Bowl this week? Jets v Giants?
Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
No. Neil, usual fare this week. We're going to plug into the mains. We're going to talk a little bit about the Chargers of wherever they will be, and then I want to rant about coaches. Then usual darling and loser, and then our teams of the week. Which, as we've mentioned, there are an absolute buttload of buys this week. So teams will be much more difficult to manage, I believe.
So, the bye week. When you want to rant about coaches, just a little foreshadowing, is the phrase, are we going to the Nero shouting fire everything gif?
No, I don't think we are. I think we're just, what I'm going to query is what's happened to coaching as, well, we'll get to it. But let's plug into the mains, Neil. And I don't care what Leonardo DiCaprio said, and I don't particularly care what Dean Spano said, but we have our annual one team in the NFL is going to move to London and be the franchise this year. We're honoured that it's the LA Chargers. I believe last year it was Oakland, and I think the 7 years before that it was Jacksonville. I guess my question is this just a story that comes out every year to gauge opinion / anger towards it, or do you think there's some substance to it?
I would happily dismiss it as, this is the usual, we're just trying to see what kind of arguments we get. However, this is a team that's already moved recently. It's a team where the owner has already lied to the fan base about moving. It's a team that's not going to own its own stadium. And it's a team that basically has destroyed all notion of a home field advantage in the last 3 years. So I think you have to give it some credence. There was a line once in an episode of Yes Minister. It said it has never been officially denied. Therefore, it must be true. And because this has been so vociferously officially denied, the obvious temptation is to think, so it's being talked about, isn't it, Mr. Spanos?
It doth protest too much, yeah. I think the issue with the Chargers is different, say, when we've talked about, say, the issues with Miami or the issues with Washington, especially Washington, when nobody's turning up, or if they do, they're from the other team. The reason for that is complete and utter apathy. It's the issue for the Chargers right now is they haven't got a home field advantage because, let's be honest, they haven't got a home. They've moved to LA. They've never been in LA. They're never from LA. LA doesn't really want two teams. If it did, it'd want the Raiders, not the Chargers. So, if we take it in a London context, like, a team's not moving here for me and you. Let's make this clear. All this, would you change allegiances for teams and blah de blah? Like, I'm not having that. What I'm saying is, though, maybe more my kids than yours. Although I don't know if the girls watch the NFL with you. It's for those people. It's for people who want to watch the other teams who come to the Chargers. And, let's cheer on the Chargers. Let's make the Chargers everybody's second team, which is a concept for some people. It's not something I ever really by myself in the same league, that is. So the Chargers don't have a home. So it's at the moment it's a logical landing spot. And when I say what I mean by logical, it is somewhere where they would fit and sell out a ground. It would probably be better than it is now in the whatever the name of that soccer stadium is right now.
I don't know whether you want to get in again to this. Do we want a franchise? Do we need one? Because I feel it's for as long as we've been doing this. We've hashed over it. I think we've gone over it plenty of times. I think, speak correctly, that we could do without one. I think, we've got this far. It's not something that, is a crushing priority. But as you say, it would be a way for new fans to come in, to give them a team, rather than, just follow your dad or follow your brother or whatnot. So there is that to say for it. They do obviously have the infrastructure in place now. There's Spurs Stadium, which is an NFL stadium. Let's not beat around the bush here. Yeah. It's a stadium for NFL football to be played in as much as English football. But it's just a question of, again, is what experience do you want it to be? I mean, and the argument of people turn up, and if the Chargers lose the home team lose their first 3 games, people won't go. Bollocks. They may not go, but the secondary market ticket pound. It was sold out on the weekend for Houston against Jacksonville. It was. I think the early time slot obviously helps. The Chargers at the moment, I think, are a problem that the NFL don't really want, because they don't want mooching freeloaders, and at the moment, that's what the Chargers are.
Exactly right, and like in theory, from a NFL head office point of view, New York office, what's the difference between the Chargers being in the Rams Stadium in LA or being in a stadium in London? There's nothing. Like it's not. No. As I said, for me and you, like if the Chargers came here, I'm not changing allegiances, however much I wish I could. But that's not how I roll. Some people may, and that's fine. I've got no problem with that. Because in theory that's happened before, right? St. Louis Cardinals fans became St. Louis Rams fans. Let's not assume that never happened. That happened, so it could happen. It wouldn't happen for us, but I think it's the next generation below us who they're looking for. Yeah,
where do we think the Ravens fan base came from?
Exactly right. Ravens is an excellent example, Neil. Do you know what I mean?
Because believe me, they were not Colts fans after they went to Indianapolis.
No, if you're unsure of what we're talking about, I can't recommend enough hunting down the ESPN 30 for 30 on the Baltimore Colts band. It's a spectacular watch.
Mm-hmm.
Neil, I listened to the Tony Kornheiser show. I think I've mentioned this a few times. I love it. I love Tony, and I love his friend Mike Wilbon, who he does Pardon the Interruption with. And Mike's on a high horse at the moment, and to be honest, he's on a high horse a lot, about coaching in the NFL and how garbage it is. And he just said it never used to be like, just to remember when the NFC East was great, look at the coaches they had. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting thought process. So what I've done is I wanted to go back in time to 1990, which is kind of when I first started watching the NFL. And these are the coaches that were coaching in the NFL at that time. Some rubbish ones, which I'm not going to mention. So I'm only going to mention the good ones, okay? Or ones that people will know. Let's rephrase it. Jerry Glanville, Marv Levy, Mike Ditka, Sam Weish, Jimmy Johnson, Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, Don Shula, Jim Mora, Sr., Bill Parcells, Buddy Ryan, Chuck Noll, and a little known fella called Joseph Gibbs. I didn't mention Art Shell, although they did go 12-4 that year, the Raiders.
Don't forget as well, this era teams had defensive coordinators like Bill Belichick, Bill Cowher.
I also didn't mention
like
George Seifert, who was basically, I think that was the first year after Walsh, and they went 14-2. Coaches now, and I'm going to name the crap ones because otherwise it kind of defeats the object of this rant. Freddie Kitchens, Zach Taylor, Matt Patricia, Pat Shurmur, Adam Gase, Jason Garrett. I mean, I think we should play the game the other way round, Neil. Like, who's good? Like, who's at the level of those 1990 head coaches? And this isn't, I don't think this is a rose-tinted glasses, wasn't it better in our day? That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is coaches of that level of
competence.
How many are there in the league now?
Well, there's Bill Belichick.
Yep, obvious.
Sean Payton.
Yep, I had him.
Andy Reid.
Yeah. I said John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh, yeah. Doug Peterson's one of those, for what he's getting out of the Eagles, he is worthy of consideration. Let's look at some other teams then.
But they're not. But in theory, though, like we named what there, Gibbs.
Well, McVay as well. You have to say McVay.
And
Shanahan.
Well, I think that's to be determined. If I'm honest, as a head coach,
as
an offensive play caller,
Pistol Pete.
Yeah, Pistol Pete. Yeah, fast and loose. I just look at the games. I know it's evolved and whatever, and I just look at teams and just think, like, I don't want to talk about the Browns too much because it feels like we do it every week. Baker Mayfield shaved twice between the game kicking off and him going to his end of game press conference, and Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry had to be asked at half time to change their cleats because they were wearing inappropriate attire for the game. Now
they were not asked, by the way.
Well, no, they were told. Sorry,
they were told.
Obviously, but what I mean is, like, I'm not asked about what they're wearing. Like, that's not for me, right? But
no, it's the principle.
It's the concept. Like, your quarterback, who you're supposed to be in charge of, who the reason you've got the job is because you're supposed to be making them better, is getting worse and is shaving.
Yeah.
Your two, I guess, biggest skill players, with the exception of maybe Nick Chubb, are doing the things that we knew they would do if they weren't controlled properly. And also, you somehow decided that in that offense that you're running, that instead of placating Odell Beckham Jr., I'll just say it, instead of placating Odell Beckham Jr., you throw into Antonio Callaway. Like, that's a you thing. Like, so you need to fix it. You know, like Adam Gase, I think you're just as likely to get beat by 25 points than you are to win a game with Adam Gase as your head coach. They got beat by Miami. They are actually trying to lose, and they got beat by Miami. Pat Shurmur has, and the people around him have got rid of Eli Manning, which everyone was made up with, and somehow just got the same version of Eli Manning, but made him 15 years younger. They are not progressing Daniel Jones in any way at the moment, apart from turning him into a fumbling and interception throwing machine. You know, Jason Garrett, let's be honest, Neil, their roster is infinitely better than yours.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's close. I actually probably would say that the Cowboys have like top 4 roster in the NFL. They've got absolutely no chance of making a championship game.
No. Although I say if you put Cooper and Gallup on the Eagles, this is a whole different story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, of course. There's certain positions in certain places where it makes a big difference, obviously. But like, their roster and their coaching doesn't match. Do you know? Is what I mean? You just look and you just think, like, Bill Callahan's come in at Washington, like, and Jake Gruden wasn't great, and you know what we're going to do is run the ball more. great. We haven't scored a touchdown in 13 quarters.
Which is a long time.
If this was your interview for the job, it's probably not going very well.
But you've proved a point, which, as we said last time, that's the most important thing for some people to do.
Yeah, well done. I just look and think some really bad football, and I just look and think, are these coaches so wedded to philosophies and ways of thinking that they don't actually look at the players they've got and think, I should do better? So we talked about Chicago last week, but it's the same kind of idea. You're like, oh well, are you actually okay? Mitchell Trubisky isn't great. I think we can all say that now.
Yeah.
But are you going to attempt to make him as good as he can be? Yeah. Or are you just going to say, no, this is how I want my offense to run, and if he can't do it, then it's on him? Like, no, you're the coach, so coach him. I'm not saying turn him into Tom Brady. I'm just put him in positions to be competent.
Bill Parcells used to have a saying: every player deserves the right to be given the chance to play. That's on the coach. The coach is supposed to put the players in the best position to succeed. He's not supposed to put them in positions where they're asked to do things that they can not do. Matt Nagy's gone in the head. He's lived inside his own head since the double doink game.
Yeah.
Which, it would never happen, even though they have had kicker issues in the past. Let's say Steven Gostkowski hits the upright and the goalpost and the Patriots lose a divisional playoff game. When does Bill Belichick mention the kicker again?
Never. Just doesn't happen. Just does not happen. And this is I just look and think, maybe it'll get better, but at the moment there's a dearth of coaches, and Bill Belichick will be great in that list in the 1990 list because he's great. But at the moment, he's playing chess, and there's a load of lads who are playing checkers. Do you know what I mean? And it's like unfair. You look at his roster, and it's nowhere near as good as some of them. But it doesn't matter because he's infinitely better head coach.
Yeah. I think it's a point as well. You look at some of the play calling, and most of the coaches now, let's be honest, are offensive coaches. So, Freddie Kitchens, it's 4th and 1. Why isn't Nick Chubb on the field? I don't care what you're calling. Why isn't he on the field? Detroit Lions, Darrell Bevell. It's 4th and 1. You need a touchdown to tie. Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay have both gone over 100 yards and scored a touchdown. Why are you throwing to Logan Thomas? I'll tell you why. Because you're the same coach who called for Russell Wilson to pass the ball to Ricardo Lockett from the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl. You're an idiot. But what has happened? The cocoon mentality of the NFL has ensured that you've been able to take your idiocy somewhere else. And people are still baffled that you chose on the goal line again to throw it to your third choice tight end. But these are the people who get jobs, and the unfortunate thing is, you look at the young minds who are getting NFL head coaching jobs, like Zach Taylor. I cannot tell you if Zach Taylor's a good head coach, because the pieces around him are absolute dog shit. The roster is terrible. You know, the front office, the mentality of the franchise is terrible. So in the same way that we'll never know if Josh Rosen was a competent NFL quarterback, we'll never know if Zach Taylor's a good head coach.
Well, we definitely won't know this time.
No. He may survive another season, but are you telling me that Bengals team is one off-season away from contending?
No,
of course it isn't.
No. But even when he gets fired the next time, what'll happen is he become an offensive coordinator, and we'll find out if he's good at that. And if he's good at that, he'll eventually get another job.
Yeah, do you
think people are going to hire Josh? Do you think people want to hire Josh McDaniels again? Yes, of course they do. He was an absolute tire fire in Denver. But people still hire him.
And since then, he's already screwed one other team over.
Yeah, exactly. And he's still. Do you reckon if Danson, if it never happened, but like if Josh McDaniels said, "I want to coach the Washington Redskins," that it wouldn't happen? Of course, it would bloody happen. Don't be ridiculous.
The NFL at the moment, as I say, the coaching fraternity, there's a commitment to mediocrity.
Yeah.
Because while we still have general managers like Dave Gettleman and head coaches like Mike Zimmer, who literally, I went for it on 4th and 1. It's the stupidest decision of my life. Even thinking that sentence in 2019 makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, it's not good.
It totally destroys this. Just taken out of context. Well, where was it? The 4th and 1 was it on their goal line, because basically what you're then saying with your defensive-minded mentality, you're saying to your offense, your defense, I don't trust you to stop them if I give them a 99-yard field. Probably wasn't on the goal line, but it was still somewhere else. Yeah, these people are paid to move the ball. So there's just some terrible, terrible coaches. And as we've said in the past, and friend Matt Kelly says, and as you've said, it's an 8-8 league. People either have to do something exceptional to be exceptional, or do something bad to be bad. And too many coaches are putting their players in worse positions than they would be if they left them alone.
Absolutely.
Too many.
Absolutely. On that note, we're going to try and lighten the mood. We're going to go fantasy, and Neil's going to tell us who you should be picking this week as his fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
Well, my fancy darling this week plays for the Miami Dolphins. And it's Mike Gesicki, who, when he came into the NFL, was lauded as a physical athletic freak. His combine numbers were ridiculous. His rookie season was not great. He didn't start this season great, but in his last 3 games, he's averaging 8.9 PPR points per game, and he's been a tight end 2, a tight end 3, and then last week he had 15.5 fantasy points and was firmly in the tight end 1 landscape. The Dolphins are playing the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are one of those teams that low-key you want to target your tight ends against. In the last 5 games, tight ends against the Colts have averaged 8.4 targets, 5.8 receptions, and nearly 14 PPR points per game. Now, the only tight end of consequence from a pass-catching point of view on the Dolphins is Mike Gesicki. So you've got to like that idea that especially they're probably going to be behind. So if they are going to have to throw it, we know that Ryan Fitzpatrick's an aggressive thrower. And if he has an athlete like Gesicki, he may get some fancy points. It would, of course, be lovely if Mike Gesicki could find the end zone, because in his year and a half in the NFL, he still hasn't.
That's some effort, by the way. That's almost like he's allergic to it. There's a lot of bad. You mentioned the Miami Dolphins, but Neil, let's go to fancy loser.
Fancy loser, obviously, as we said, there are bye weeks this week that are claiming an awful lot of fantasy relevant players. So obviously you're going to be slightly restricted in how sweeping you can with your changes. But Odell Beckham Jr. is not a good start this week. He has had one wide receiver finish this season, and that was against the Jets. So suddenly that doesn't look impressive. The Browns are playing the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills they've been shutting down wide receivers of late. In their last 5 games, they're averaging wide receiving groups against the tight ends, obsessed with them, against the Bills. They're averaging 10 receptions a game for 114 yards. And in those last 5 games, they've only allowed 1 wide receiver touchdown. So if you have a look at the top scoring wide receivers by game in the last 5 games, Josh Gordon, 3 receptions, 46 yards. Adam Humphries, 4 receptions, 30 yards. Devontae Parker, 5 receptions, 55 yards and a touchdown. Alshon Jeffrey, 4 for 64, and Paul Richardson, 4 for 42. Their offense, the Browns' offense is terrible. Odell Beckham is he becoming a distraction? I don't know, but the signs are there. Especially if he's going to start A, giving his boots to other quarterbacks, and B, putting the wrong ones on. Apparently, I'm told the Browns' schedule is going to start getting easier. So what? They're crap. So it doesn't really matter.
I picked them in touchdown 3 this week. I went 2-1, and they obviously played the Broncos, and you're just like, how are you 14-0 down to Brandon Allen? And then it's like, get to the red zone, field goal, get to the red zone, field goal, get to the red zone, field goal, and you're just like, this team stinks, man. Just really bad.
And a little thing as well, if you've lost don't go on your phone. Don't log on to Twitter.
Yeah,
and if there's some people who obviously Twitter should have a button that allows you to type your tweet, and then it comes up, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
And that should be built into certain people's profile. Professional sports people are amongst that people. So Odell Beckham, it wasn't him. Obviously, it was the safety who I'm sure will resurface again and be lauded wherever he goes. But Odell Beckham is not going to win anyone any fantasy matchups this week.
Okay, Neil. Let's drift on to daily fantasy and talk about our daily fantasy teams of the week.
Mains and Duts. Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Neil, quarterback for your team this week.
Quarterback for me this week. I've been to this well a few times. I've not got the best out of it, but I'll continue to press on. It's Kyler Murray. The Cardinals are at Tampa Bay. As we know, the Buccaneers are something of a pass funnel. So they're very good against the run, although they were wore down a bit last week. But Kyler Murray obviously is a Lamar Jackson light, should we say. He gives you something with his arm and on the ground. So he's 6,500.
I also have Kyler Murray. Tampa Bay's a weird team. And Arizona, they move the ball. I think you mentioned they're not very good, but they move the ball. So yeah, I got Kyler Murray too. Who's your running back one, Neil?
Running back one is Saquon Barkley in the Snoopy Bowl. He's 8,800. If you look at his game log this season, he has had at least 17 opportunities, that's targets and carries, in five of his 6 games. He's had more than 20 in 4 of them. And if you actually look, the only time this season he's finished worse than running back 19 was in week 3 against the Buccaneers. As you say, weird team, but the Jets are pathetic. And they should be attacked. And this is the best way to go, because as we know, the best way the Giants can move the ball is to keep it out of Daniel Jones' hand.
Yes. My running back one is Mark Ingram. He's 7,100. Playing Cincinnati. I expect a lot of running. The only way this is a bad play is if they get up so large that Gus Edwards comes in. It is nervous. I won't lie. But I've gone with Ingram because I'm hoping that he'll already maybe have 70 yards and 2 touchdowns and then come out.
It'd be nice.
Who's running back 2, Neil?
Running back 2 is Marlon Mack. The Indianapolis Colts are playing the Miami Dolphins. He's $7,000. If you look at the last 5 games for the Dolphins, running backs are averaging 24.4 rush attempts per game for 107 rushing yards at a 4.4 yard per carry. Although, to be fair, they've only allowed 2 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in the last 5 games. Marlon Mack still isn't very good in the passing game, despite the fact he is 9th among all running backs in terms of opportunities. He's 61st in terms of receiving yards, but he's 9th in terms of rushing yards. He is averaging 23 PPR points per game, and but as I say, because of his lack of running, he's only the running back 21. But positive game script. There's a good chance that they may have Brian Hoyer at quarterback instead of Jacoby Brissett. So the sensible thing to do would be to keep handing it off to Marlon Mack.
If you Pittsburgh, just on the Marlon Mack, it kind of fits in. Would you be concerned that you only just beat Brian Hoyer, who hadn't took a first team snap in practice all year?
I just think Pittsburgh are weird. They're not a fun watch on offense.
They're not a fun watch on offense. I'm not convinced by Mason Rudolph at all. I don't know if I'm Chris Westling not convinced by Mason Rudolph, but I'm not convinced by Mason Rudolph.
That's a man who is not happy to see him take snaps. I just think I was worried that Monday was going to be we're really sorry, but Adam's going to have to retire, because it's happening too often now for Vinatieri. But I think that end of Heinz Field has claimed many victims.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's true.
He's given another chance. But I think it was one of those games probably that Indianapolis might have thought we'll probably lose that, but to be in a position to win it was disappointing.
Agreed. My running back 2 is Tevin Coleman. Somehow, don't know if anyone knows this, but like 2 of the best teams in the NFC are playing each other on Monday night. I thought Monday Night Football was crap. Probably should get a NBC to flex that back in.
It's not very often you see the 2 big boys going up against each other, is it?
No. I guess the question I have on here is, could this be the shortest game ever? Like, because there's going to be 75 runs, or like pass completion from Russell Wilson to Tyler Lockett, which has got a passer rating of about 140, and is actually down on last year. So yeah, I've gone for Tevin Coleman. He looks so fast at the moment. So yeah, he's 5,600.
The thing with Tevin Coleman is, and always has been, that he has no lateral agility at all, but if you give him a wide open running lane, he'll hit it and he'll go for a long way. So it's a question of, can this mauling San Francisco offensive line, which should have Joe Staley back, punch through enough holes for him to get through? My issue again with Coleman is, he's probably the leader in terms of running back carries, but that doesn't mean an awful lot because they mix so many people in. So I just worry that he's touchdown dependent.
Yeah, probably. Okay, who's your wide receiver 1, Neil?
Wide receiver 1 is Zach Pascal, also of the Indianapolis Colts. Good chance T.Y. Hilton won't be available again. So if we look this season, in the 2 games that that T.Y. Hilton has not played, Zach Pascal is averaging 15 PPR points, 6.5 targets, 4.5 receptions, and 74 yards. So it's not great, but there's a good chance that he's a big play waiting to happen against a defense that pretty much allows big plays to happen.
He's Indy's wide WR1, right?
At the moment, yeah.
My wide receiver 1, although spoiler alert, we're going to come back to Zach Pascal later, is Michael Thomas. You can't guard him. He's 8,300 and he's playing Atlanta. Oh, and guess what? Drew Brees is back as well. So for all them fantasy people who were nervous because Michael Thomas wasn't quite getting the stats with Teddy Bridgewater, it's okay now. Drew's back.
Yeah, Kevin Hart, it's about to go down. Gif.
Yeah, there could be I think the Saints are favoured by 13. And sometimes you're like, that's a lot, but then you realise these 2 teams hate each other and one's great and the other one isn't. So if one of them gets a chance to stamp on the other one's neck, I think it's going to happen.
This could be a 60-burger.
It could be. I don't think they stop if they get the chance. Sean Payton doesn't strike me as Sean Payton strikes me as a college coach. He needs to get them. He needs to get them points to move up the power rankings for the bowl games.
Yeah.
Okay, who's your wide receiver 2, Neil?
Wide receiver 2 is Christian Kirk of Arizona, playing the Buccaneers. When he's been healthy this season, he has got a lot of volume. We know that the Cardinals run an obscene amount of plays. Although, to be fair, they actually haven't run as many as they thought they would. They're above average, but they're not so far ahead of everyone else. He seems to have a genuine connection with Kyler Murray, and as we've seen, Tampa Bay's pass defense is woeful.
Yep.
So he's 5,200.
My wide receiver 2 is Zach Pascal, who, as we mentioned before, is wide receiver 1 in Indianapolis at the moment. He's playing Miami, and they're not great. Don't know if you know, they're trying to lose. Although I think they won it last week to say, no, we're not. See, nothing to see here, when they know that the Jets have still got Washington. So and Washington holds the tiebreaker over them. So it's all part of a master plan, tank. He's, as Neil mentioned, he's 5,300. Who's your wide receiver 3, Neil?
Wide receiver 3 is Tyler Boyd. The Ravens are playing the Cincinnati Bengals. He's 4,700. Now, the Bengals are probably going to get the clock cleaned for them, especially as they're starting a rookie quarterback. But there's one thing that Tyler Boyd does well, it is attract the attention of his quarterback. He's 7th in wide receiver targets, 8th in wide receiver receptions, and 19th in receiving yards. Now, he operates mostly out of the slot, so he's going to be an easy target for Ryan Finley to go for. If I just go by the last 5 games for the Baltimore Ravens and the top performing wide receivers against them, it's Jarvis Landry, 8 for 167, Juju Smith-Schuster, 7 for 75 and 1, Auden Tate, 5 for 91, Tyler Lockett, 5 for 61, Mohamed Sanu, 10 for 81 and a touchdown. these people line up in the slot more often than not. That's where Tyler Boyd lives, and I think for 4,700, it's the logic. Ryan Finley's got to throw to someone because the Bengals rushing game is poo.
My wide receiver 3 is Devontae Parker from the Miami-Indianapolis game. I think, as one of our favourite guests, Marcus Grant, put it, we've all waited for it, and it's finally happened. Devontae Parker's alive after last week, so let's ride that. Let's ride that train. Devontae Parker's 4,800.
Did you see when he caught his touchdown last week, the disdain of which he looked down at the Jets cornerback? It was like, that's the attitude we've wanted from Devontae Parker for 5 years.
Exactly right.
And it took Ryan Fitzpatrick to bring it out of you.
And that's what Ryan does. Do you know why, Neil? Because he's smart. Do you know why he's smart? Because he went to Harvard.
He can get to his 200th career touchdown pass, I believe, this week.
Amazing.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
What a career. Like, in a weird way. Who's your tight end, Neil?
Mike Gesicki, 3,100.
Mine is Vance McDonald, Rams at Steelers. His targets have creeped up the last 2 weeks, and Mason Rudolph can't throw it very far. So I expect a lot of play to Vance McDonald this week against the Rams. He's 3,800.
So as you say, he is a yak monster, and that's what Mason Rudolph and the Steelers want. They basically want it out of his hands and into the hands of people who can do things with it, which is, it's a plan.
Neil, who's your flex?
My flex is running back Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick Henry is playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are not a very good run defense. Obviously, the danger is that they're going to go, the Patrick Mahomes could be back, the Chiefs could get up early, and that pretty much eliminates Derrick Henry as an option, as he does not get involved in the game in the last week. He had 3 targets that tied the season high. It was also the first time he'd had more than 2 receptions in a game. But he had 3 for 36 and a touchdown. As they mentioned on Establish the Run this week, Adam Levitan and Evan Silver, why not just throw 2 screens a game to Derrick Henry? Because if he's out in open space, you're not stopping him. The man is a monster.
He's a bowling ball, isn't he?
Oh, he's just an absolute, he's a wrecking machine. But you look, he has had, last week, actually, it was his lowest carries of the season. He only had 13. Before that, he'd had at least 15 in every game. He's only had 100-yard game, and he just keeps scoring touchdowns as well. So if we believe that Ryan Tannehill still has something left in him, maybe the Titans could keep this competitive. And if that's the case, then they should feed Derrick Henry. If not, this is a terrible, terrible selection. I apologise for
it. My flex is Golden Tate. This is where you go against your gut in a feeling of Daniel Jones and that offense are terrible. However, he will make some plays, and those plays in the passing game will absolutely go to get Golden Tate. Sometimes, Dutton, you never forget your first love, and Golden Tate's magic. So 5,900 Golden Tate.
You do love him.
I do. Who's your defense and special teams?
The New York Football Giants against the New York Football Jets. I will take. Put it this way. I'll bank on both of these. I nearly went with the Jets.
Yeah.
But because first look at it, I thought, oh, the Giants are on the road. But then I remembered, of course, they're not on the road. They're in the exact same stadiums if they were a home team. So I have no faith in the Jets. Sam Darnold, it's painful to watch. He's going backwards. And to quote most Jets fans, how that arsehole is still in a job after last week. I said at the time, I hope Adam Gase has still got keys to his South Beach apartment because he's going to need somewhere to stay when he's not allowed on the flight back to New York.
Yeah, didn't understand that one. Didn't understand it. I picked the Chiefs. I was tempted to pick Giants or Jets. Do you know how bad the Jets are? The Giants are favoured by 2.5, quote unquote, on the road. And that's how bad the Jets are. My defensive special team is the Chiefs. You get the benefit of one of the greatest kickers ever created. The butt kicker, but also with the exception of Derrick Henry, that offense is still not good, and the Tannehill experiment is just slowly going to start going downhill, I believe. So Yeah, Chiefs make a couple of plays, kick a couple of field goals. There we go. 2,700. I'd run out of
it's all-
money. I got flipping Michael Thomas, for God's sake. He's 8,300. What do you want me to do?
It's almost like making a man called Arthur Smith your offensive coordinator was a mistake.
Well, yeah. Let's recap, Neil. Quarterback,
Kyler Murray,
same. Running back 1.
Saquon Barkley,
I've got Mark Ingram. Running back 2.
They said Marlon Black. He used to play for the West Indies.
He did.
It's Marlon Mack,
I've got Tevin Coleman. Wide receiver 1.
Zach Pascal,
I've got Michael Thomas. Wide receiver 2.
Christian Kirk,
I've got Zach Pascal. Wide receiver 3.
Tyler Boyd,
I've got Devontae Parker. Tight end.
Mike Gesicki,
I've got Phantom McDonald. Flex.
Derrick Henry,
I've got Golden Tate and defense and special teams.
Big Blue.
I've got the Chiefs. Just so everyone's aware, loads of Miami at Indy, Rams at Steelers, and Giants at Jets fancy action this week. Oh, sorry, and Arizona at Tampa Bay. Goodness gracious me! Can't wait for Red Zone this week. It's gonna be super.
Yeah. Luckily we have Scott.
Yes, luckily we do have Scott. Neil, where can people catch you this week?
Catch me this week on the Twitter at N13, same as every week. My weekly stats to know for Numberfire is out for your viewing pleasure. I have my wide receiver report from last week, looking at ridiculous season that Mike Evans is actually putting in this year, despite he's been bloody productive since he came into the league, but he's actually on course for his best season ever. And also my tight end streamers, that's also for Rotoviz. One of them has been mentioned in this show.
2-1 last week on the touchdown 3. This week's article will be up probably Friday. I haven't written it yet, so that's why I don't really know when it's going to be up. That's after the show. I am at Mainty7. Combined, we are at Waxing Lyrical. Waxing_lyrical even. It's been a pleasure as always. These top guys are out.